Because of this decision, the world was now very different than what it was before. It was no longer perfect, but fallen. And the problem didn't just stop with Adam and Eve. Because they produced children in this state, they had children who had children who had children who were all closed off from God, all with hardened hearts, and all infected with the sin nature. And sin is a very violent and progressive disease, getting worse and worse with each generation. Even as early as the first generation after Adam and Eve, there was murder where one son killed the other. And then there was all kinds of wickedness, stealing, lying, and all kinds of sexual immorality, even up until this current generation. And if you look around you, you can see that this is true. The world is not getting better, but it's becoming more and more violent and filled with more and more wickedness. And this is happening because the law of sin is at work in our bodies, producing death. And death is everything that life isn't. So where there's happiness, there's now sadness. Where there was once oneness, there's now division and chaos. Where there was once love, there's now hate. And where man was once healthy, now disease and sickness, and on it goes. And our very nature is corrupt, and we cannot change it because we cannot change the law of sin. And the law of sin says that the wages of sin is death. And because of this, death has authority over us. Speaking of the law of sin, let's take the law of gravity as an example. If I drop this cup, it falls. Even if I really, really want it to fly, and even if I command it to fly, it keeps falling. And why is that? Because the law of gravity pulls this cup down each and every time. And no matter how badly I want it to fly or freeze in the air, it won't do that because I cannot override the law of gravity. And just as gravity pulls this cup down, the law of sin pulls us down and holds us captive. And no matter how badly we want to be set free, no matter how badly we yearn to do the right thing, we can't. We remain bound to sin. And everybody has sinned. No one can claim to be sinless. Now, because we have all sinned and we're all in this broken state, we compare ourselves to each other. And sin looks like something that's normal and acceptable. And we don't really feel bad about it. But when it's all said and done, other human beings are not the standard of what is good. God is the standard of what is good. He is absolutely loving, just, and pure. There's no sin in him. He's never sinned. He will never sin. And he hates sin. When we sin, we are breaking God's law and we are rebelling against him. And ultimately, he's the one who gets to determine how bad sin is and what to do about it. You see, it's the authority of the person that you sin against that determines how serious the crime is and what the consequence should be about it. Let's take the sin of lying, for instance, because that's usually something that we don't consider as so bad, but yet God commands us not to lie. So if I lie to my daughter, there's not very much she can do to me because she doesn't have any authority over me. But then if I lie to my husband, that's a bigger problem. In fact, some couples get divorced because of lies. Now, if I then go and lie to a boss, I can risk losing my job. And if I go and I lie in a courtroom before a judge, I can even be thrown in jail. Now, as you can see, I only lied, but depending on who I lied to determined how severe the consequence would be. And when we are lying, we're not only lying to people, but we are lying before God. And God is the highest authority. And because he's the highest authority, he gets to determine how serious sin is. And he gets to determine the penalty for it. Now, even though we have all sinned, God still doesn't change his standards. He doesn't grade on the curve, so to speak. He not only judges our actions, but he judges the intentions of our hearts and also our thoughts. Jesus said, even if you look on someone with lust in your heart, you've already committed adultery. And if you call your brother out of his name, you're also guilty of murder. Not only that, but it only takes breaking one law to be guilty of breaking the whole thing. When we look at it this way, and how we have disregarded God, dishonored him, and broken his commandments, we can truly see how severe sin is and what a problem it is for everyone, including me. We are all guilty, guilty, guilty before a perfect and righteous God. And no one is justified when it comes to sin. Let's dive a little deeper. Let's say that I have a chip that I've taken from your brain some kind of way. And on this chip is a movie of your life. In this movie, there's no record of any good you have done because you're not judged for the good that you've done. Instead, what's recorded in this movie is every single ill thought you've had, every single bad intention you've had, and every single wrong thing that you've done. And then let's say I invite your family and friends over so that they can come watch this movie with us. How would you feel about that? I don't know about you, but I'm going to be honest. I wouldn't want anybody to watch that movie. I would feel ashamed and probably embarrassed. And even though it would be in front of people who are just as sinful as me and probably who have done equal or worse things, I wouldn't want anyone to see that. And I don't think anyone would, because we don't want people to see what really goes on the inside of us. One day, you will stand before God and you won't have any excuses because your very life will be set on display before him. It will clearly testify against you and bring to light every single ill thought you've had, every ill intention, and every sin you've ever committed. Because we have all sinned, we would all be doomed. God would still be holy, just, righteous, and pure, even if he sent all of us to hell. And why is that? Because he is good and we are not. But hang in there because there is good news.